Okay, so my topic tonight is on effective communication of audit scope and results. And just to give some background to this is coming out of my field, which again is working with people that are involved in design projects, construction projects. So I'm going to touch on some examples, and they're all going to be from the design and construction field, but I think they're all universal issues that anyone who's been in the management or the auditing of a given project or program has probably come across it at one point in their life. And really the subtext of this whole presentation could be that, well, I made some assumptions that the people I was talking to and working with understood why I was there, what it was I was doing, and what was expected of them. So this is some tools that I picked up along the way that have worked out for me and have worked out for the people I work with. So I'm presenting them as just some ideas that you can take back. So feast your eyes on the pictures, because that's probably the most pictures I have on any given slide. So concrete cylinder breaking is more fascinating than that. So really this is going to be focusing on looking at the internal audit side of things. I do supplier audits, and the audit process that I follow is the same for a supplier as internal audits. But this is really geared towards those of us who are involved in, say, both the management and auditing function, where you go in to do the internal audit, and at some point during the audit you have to take off your auditor hat and put on your manager hat and work with the people, because at the end of the day you're their resource one way or the other for them to get things done. So what I'll do is a pretty basic introduction. That was the basic introduction. Then I'm going to talk about my typical audit process that I follow, and one of the reasons I'm presenting that is sort of to set it up as a straw man of, well, here's the process I follow, and hey, I thought it was good enough, and yet I still had issues in terms of how people understood, again, what the nature of the audit was about and how they needed to respond to it. That'll roll us into looking at some projects and some lessons that I learned out of it. And then I want to address a few common auditee responses that I'm fairly certain you've all heard in some form or the other, and then just a quick summary. And I tend to run a pretty informal presentation, so if you have questions or comments, please feel free to raise a hand and ask while I'm talking. It's fine. Okay, so some typical audit steps. This is really just running the audit spectrum all the way from planning through notification of the people to be audited, doing the audit, verifying that they've done the corrective actions that they identified, and closing out the audit. I'm going to go through each of the steps in a little more detail. So typically when I get out ready to do an audit, I go ahead and formulate out an audit plan that I provide to the people that are going to be on the receiving end. Very basically, it does define the audit schedule in terms of when am I going to show up, when do we want to do the entrance meeting, typically what day are we going to try and do the exit meeting on. It'll let them know who's going to come through their door. Myself as the lead auditor, there are times where I'll bring along an auditor to work with me. More often I'll bring along a technical specialist, because often I'm going into places where they're doing some type of testing of rock or soil or some type of design where that's not within my skill set. So I want to have somebody that can look at it from the same set of eyes as the people that are actually doing the work.
Where are you coming from? I mean, we know you work here in Albuquerque, but I thought your building here was a smaller part of the whole company.
It is.
So why are you a person who goes out and audits other people?
Because I'm the only auditor in the company.
In all of Kleinfelder?
Mm-hmm. I'm the lead auditor. So that's why. That, and they said, hey, do you like to travel? I said, yes. And they said, oh, great. So that's what happens. But I do pull auditors from other parts of the company. And to be fair, we're talking here about large-scale project and programmatic audits. We do have people that we'll send in to do spot check audits. Say we've got special inspectors out working on a transit line. We'll send someone else out to do just a very quick sort of checklist type audit to see how they're doing in terms of following the specs, following whatever a guiding ASTM is. But I'll come out and say, okay, we're running this project on, say, an ISO 9000 platform. do we have the documentation to support that, and are we actually implementing it as we said we would? So, I guess the bigger gun that gets pulled in.
You're more like the quality engineer dealing with the line inspectors in the quality department.
That could be a way to look at it.
Manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Defines the purpose and scope of the audit. And a big thing that I've learned working with my company is that a really good way for me to prep the people that are being audited is to get on the phone with the person that's requesting the audit, which is usually some type of regional manager, and then get on the phone as well with the project manager and have a call with the three of us to kind of go over what's the reason why we're doing this audit. Because 9 times out of 10, the minute the program manager hears audit, they assume I've done something wrong, I'm being checked up on, someone's trying to micromanage me. So giving them an opportunity to know why we're actually doing this, which is, there are some times where there are concerns where we don't start the phone call by saying, by the way, Bob, we've got some real concerns about how you're running the project, and I'm going to come check that out. But we will let them know this is an opportunity for us to see what's working, what's not, and reassure them that even though the audit is going to happen, this isn't some drive-by audit that's going to occur where we just hand off some findings, leave them to it. This is part of a process to help them improve. Having that interpersonal contact between them, myself, and whoever's requested it makes it a little more palliative. One thing I do with my audit plan is I make sure that whoever's requesting the audit also signs off on it so that they have an understanding of the scope. I have had people who have said, hey, we want you to go out and do an audit of our project. I'll say, sure, I will. And they'll say, and you look at stuff like contracts, right? And I can already understand they're thinking, well, this guy's going to do a financial audit. Sure, I'm not a financial auditor. That's not my role here. I'm going out there to look at how you're doing the quality program. So there's oftentimes some education that needs to happen both ways, both for the person that's requesting the audit as well as the person that's going to be receiving it.
So just want to clarify, you keep saying requesting the audit. Do you not generally formulate a yearly audit plan, or do you not identify some routine process audits to be conducted on a yearly basis?
What we've found is that we look at every year what are sort of the major areas where we're having issues or potential failures or successes. And those are the areas we target because we're not running per se the entire company on one quality management platform. We do have a manual company-wide that is written to the ISO 9000 standard that we have out there for people to employ on projects. But we also have laboratories, they run to ISO 17025. We have special inspection, which runs to ISO 17020. Or in some cases, there are even other iterations of quality standards that we have to meet. So we're not looking at it in terms of, okay, we've got to hit 10 or 15 or 18 different quality areas. What we're looking at is, okay, where are we experiencing pains in terms of what's preventing efficiency, what's causing resentments, what's slowing the production of the deliverable product, be it either a test program or the report or whatever it is.
So
That's
you're
how we
doing
do it.
some pre-trend analysis, going through possibly some FMEAs, things of that nature,
Yeah,
to
we have-
determine where those issues might be.
We have a company-wide loss prevention platform database, and every employee in our company is trained to do what we call loss prevention observations, where you would go and watch a peer perform a process and basically look at how well they follow it and grade, what are the positives and what are the questionable activities that we did. And that all gets fed into the database, and we trend out of that so that we can see, okay, we're having areas where calculations are being produced and they're not being checked, or we have areas where people aren't verifying that the test program they were following actually met the specifications that were called for on the project. Those are just possible examples. So that's what we use to figure out where we want to go. It would just be too difficult, we've decided, to try and say, because if we were to do that, ISO has maybe, say, 10 requirements, Federal Transit Authority, that's 15 requirements, NQA1 for our nuclear work, that's 18 requirements. It just gets too confusing.